They told me to smile more. I say it now like anyone would repeat a prayer, soft, automatic, the way you say a name to keep it from vanishing. I remember the first time I heard it in the apartment, a thin, rasping voice behind the plaster, as if the walls themselves leaned in to correct me. I had moved in on a Tuesday, lugging boxes through a hallway that still smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and cleaning bleach, the kind of smell that settles into fabric and doesn't leave for months. The place was small, cheap, perfect for disappearing into, and that was the honest reason I took it. The living room has a window that faces a brick wall so close I can smell the rain off it when it starts. There's a patch of light near the heater where dust dances like slow, startled moths. I hung the poster first because you always hang something that feels bigger than the room, and it fit the wall like a confession. A face in a film-grained smile, too wide to be human, teeth arranged like a serrated white fence, and in huge red letters on the left, the command, "Smile more." It was the sort of thing you expect to find in a thrift shop or at the back of some internet forum where nostalgia and bad taste meet. I thought it ironic then. I thought it would be a joke I could tell later. The joke began to shift at night. The heater hummed a low, steady song, and the building settled with the tired groans of old bones. At 2 a.m., the hum would dip into a frequency I felt more in my teeth than in my ears. I started waking up with a pressure behind my eyes, like someone pressing their thumbs there, like someone watching the place behind my eyelids. Once I woke because something had been running a finger along my jaw. The skin there woke raw. There were no marks in the light. I convinced myself it was a dream. Small things rearranged themselves, a cup moving an inch across the counter. My keys on the table when I was sure I'd left them in the bowl by the door. I blamed the building rats for chewed cardboard and knocked tins. The rational explanations were the ones I clung to. They were a thin rope I pulled tight around my panic. Then I started seeing teeth when I blinked. In the reflection of my phone screen, in the brass of the doorknob, a flash of ivory where there should be darkness. The face in the poster felt less like pigment and more like presence. At first I told myself the graininess made it look alive. Our brains insist on agency, they say. Then I found myself stopping in doorways and smiling without thinking, as if muscle memory had been rewired. It was subtle, a twitch that slid across the mouth, a tightening around the eyes. I would catch my reflection, and the smile would be too wide, a rent in the ordinary. The hallway neighbor was the first to notice. She stood in her doorway one morning, cigarette smoke wreathing around her, and said, without preface, "You should smile more." There was a flattery in her words that felt like a command, as if politeness were the shape of a leash. Her mouth was an ordinary mouth. She seemed ordinary enough. But there was a distance in her eyes, and when she smiled, it didn't reach them. I told her thanks and walked faster. That night, the voice behind the plaster stopped being a whisper and started keeping time. It matched the beating of my heart, slow, then faster, like a metronome learning a new rhythm. I lay in bed with the poster watching the corner of the room, counting each breath. The teeth looked too close then, as if the paper had thinned. The light from the street lamp painted the smile in stages, and for the first time, I felt watched from the inside out. I don't remember deciding to take the poster down. I remember standing in front of it, fingers pressed to the edge of the paper, feeling the texture of the ink like dried blood, thinking, this is just an object. Yet my hands trembled as if it were warm. The smiling face stared back, teeth caught mid-laugh, eyes just dark sockets. That night, the heater's hum was gone. In its place was breathing, slow, deliberate, like someone practicing how to be human on the other side of the wall. I turned every light on. The bulbs flickered the moment they warmed. Each one buzzed and dimmed as if something large were standing between me and the electricity. In the kitchen, the window reflected me with a slight delay. My mouth moved a second after my thoughts, and the reflection smiled even when I didn't. The apartment began to smell like wet metal, a tang of rust and pennies. I could taste it on my tongue. My phone screen crackled with static when I opened the camera, white noise spilling across my palm. No signal, no clock, only that grainy shimmer like the poster's texture swimming across everything. I spoke out loud to hear a human voice. My own words came back too low, pitched wrong, like someone imitating me through a cheap tape recorder. Then the voices began. Not one but many, overlapping, like a choir warming up in a tunnel, all whispering the same thing, over and over, weaving it into my nerves. Smile more, smile more, smile more. At first I thought it was coming from the vents. I pressed my ear to them, nothing but cold air. When I pulled back, there were teeth marks on the metal. I tried to leave. My front doorknob was slick, as though someone had been licking it. The lock turned, but the door stayed shut, the frame swollen like flesh. I pushed harder. The wood was soft beneath my hands. My fingers came away damp, coated in something dark. I didn't look. I ran to the window instead. The brick wall outside was gone. In its place was a corridor stretching endlessly into darkness, lined with hundreds of posters, each one showing a face slightly different from mine, each one with that same command in red. All of them smiling. The corridor pulsed. A low heartbeat thudded through the glass, through the floor, through me. My own teeth ached like they were being pulled forward, stretched. When I touched my mouth, my lips were already forming the smile without my permission. My jaw trembled, resisting an invisible pressure. My cheeks burned from the strain. I backed into the living room. The poster had slipped from the wall. It didn't fall. It was sliding, slowly, down like a tongue descending from the ceiling. The paper curled at the edges, revealing something beneath, something damp and black. The smiling face seemed to lift off the surface, three-dimensional now, its teeth catching the weak light. Its voice was closer, softer, as though it were pressing its mouth against my ear. "Let me in." My heart hammered. My fingers dug into the armrest of the couch. There was nowhere to go but deeper into the apartment, and every step echoed back as if someone heavier was following just behind. The smell of rust was thicker now, mixed with something sweet like rotting fruit. My vision blurred at the edges. The static in my phone rose into a hiss. And over it all, under my skull, was the shape of that smile, blooming like a second face beneath my own. I don't know when I stopped moving. One moment I was stumbling backwards, palms slick, breath tearing in and out like paper. The next, I was standing perfectly still in the center of the living room, my body locked in place, as if the air had thickened into resin. The smell of rust and sweetness pressed against my tongue until I almost gagged. My eyes burned, but I couldn't blink. The poster, or whatever it had become, hung from the ceiling now, a sagging membrane of paper and flesh. The red letters had smeared into long streaks, like veins. The smile had widened far beyond the edges of the page, stretching from one wall to the other, teeth like piano keys wet with saliva. It opened, and inside was not a throat, but an empty hallway of darkness, leading nowhere. I could hear my heartbeat echoing inside it. The voice that had whispered "Smile more" no longer spoke. It breathed through me. Every inhale dragged my lips up a little higher. The muscles in my cheeks trembled, tearing, but they kept rising. My jaw cracked, my tongue pressed flat against the roof of my mouth like a trapped bird. I thought of calling for help, but my phone was gone. In its place, in my hand, was a scrap of paper, the same smile, my own eyes printed above it. I tried to drop it and couldn't. My fingers curled tighter around it, nails digging into my palm. The walls began to pulse like a heartbeat. With each throb, the apartment seemed to shrink. The brick outside vanished entirely. Now only that corridor of posters stretched in every direction, each one showing me a different version of myself, smiling at the edge of a scream, smiling with teeth too long, smiling without eyes. They whispered in unison now, not a command, but a welcome. "Come closer." I felt my feet move. Not because I chose to, but because the floor tilted toward the poster's mouth. The smile opened wider. A damp wind blew out from it, carrying the smell of rot and something sweet, like candy melted on hot asphalt. I could see shapes moving inside the darkness. White flashes like teeth, hands curling in invitation. My reflection in the window showed me walking forward, but my mouth in the glass wasn't moving at all. It was already on the other side, grinning back at me. As I reached the threshold, the voices fell silent. For a moment, everything was still. The air tasted like metal and cold water. My jaw ached from the forced grin, but behind the pain, there was something else, warm, electric, like a thread pulling me through. I don't remember stepping across, only the sensation of being unwrapped, layer by layer, until the smile was no longer on my face, but inside me, stretching, splitting me open like a seam. I felt teeth on my skin, not biting, but pressing, marking me. My eyes burned. The apartment dissolved into black. When I woke, or thought I woke, I was back in my living room. The poster hung neatly on the wall, smooth and still, its red letters clean again, but now the face in it wasn't the same. It was mine. My own eyes stared out, hollow and endless, my own teeth stretched into that impossible grin. And in the silence, I heard my own voice behind the plaster, whispering to whoever might move in next, "Smile more."
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.